Peace and love, family. Welcome. This is Brother Frank, and this is U.S. Political Prisoners and You, brought to you by the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition and EPPC. So today we're talking about what's coming up, right? This is the last month of the year. It is the time that you reflect on the months prior, right? What happened, and then you can prepare yourself for what's coming into being, the upcoming year, 2026. So, there's a number of things that's going to be happening throughout the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks. Some of us will be celebrating certain holidays, and some of us will be dealing with Kwanzaa, right? Somebody like myself of African descent recognize the importance of Kwanzaa, dealing with the principles. So today I would like to talk to you about, responsibilities we have when we engage in these events, these programs, and the responsibility we have, as you know, when you tune in, that I speak about political prisoners and I speak about the need for us to address them. And this gives us an opportunity to do just that, to talk about them wherever we at, a community center, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island, wherever you at, you have the opportunity to talk about a political prisoner, to actually engage in writing to a political prisoner. I had the opportunity to do that with an organization called Survive and Punishment, and I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to do that. There are a number of people that I wrote, and I gave them my information. I gave them the material that I wrote on. And, to actually have the time to do that and to reflect on a particular person or particular people, it meant a lot to me because I was in the atmosphere with others who were feeling the same way. Others who knew that, they had to make time to think about somebody who made a commitment, who made a sacrifice, who going through an unfortunate situation. So our political prisoners and our political prisoners of war, they need that time to be recognized. They need that time to being shown appreciation and love. And this is the actual right time for us to do that, because it's the time that we spend traveling, and we go see our family that we haven't seen in a while. But as we traveling, what material are we bringing? What books are we bringing? What conversations are we preparing ourselves to have? Because we need to engage in conversations that are mentally stimulating, conversations that take us and our family to another level. Because you see our family members, and they, especially the youth, they look at you as a person of wisdom, a person of character, a person of various principles. So what principles do you stand on? What conversations are you having? I know I had a conversation with my niece one time, and I let her look at the podcast, and she said, "You sound very passionate." And that really impressed me, for her to see that and identify that. And so now she understands what her uncle does and why he's passionate about it, because now I've been given the opportunity to explain to her why I was doing what I was doing. So I share that to let you know that that's the opportunity we have, right? When we come to these programs, these events during this time of the year, somebody's giving a gift, a child is giving a gift for whatever reason, and you can say, this gift is for you for this particular reason, and then you remind them that there are people that sacrifice. There are people, just like I gave you a gift. The gift came not out of the sky, or not because I didn't do no work behind it. I had to do work to reward you with this present, and that work requires sacrifice and commitment. These are two principles. These are two ideas that our political prisoners hold dearly. People like Mumia Abu Jamal, people like Kamal Siddiqui, Fred Muhammad Burton, and others. All right. So we have to say their name. We have to make sure that we engage with our community wherever we're at. We might be at a community center. We might be at a church. Wherever we have the opportunity to talk about various principles, our history. Now we have the responsibility to teach people about political prisoners, to make time during those programs to actually write to a political prisoner, to let those know who are present that we have addresses for our political prisoners. Yes, try to write them, and if that address doesn't work, then you can contact me. I'm always providing my information for those who are coming on right now and I'm not able to see my information that I usually provide for you. Is 347 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. And I always like to provide the contact information for political prisoners because I gave you an assignment and now I got to give you resources for you to carry out the assignment. So, let's work together. Let's raise each other's consciousness. Let's follow up. Let's talk about what did you do with the information that I gave you around writing to a political prisoner. Did you spend time doing it? Did you get it done? And because a political prisoner needs that love, needs to be reminded that they're not forgotten. And like I said, you spending time to traveling, that's preparation, that's money. You're going to get gifts, right? You're going to give probably the youth gifts. What are these gifts are going to be about, right? I encourage parents, I encourage family members to always find time to give a child a book. There are a number of books that deal with people who made commitments, people like Malcolm X, people like Mumia Abu-Jamal, people like Martin Luther King, who's also a political prisoner, people like Nelson Mandela, who's also a political prisoner, people like Rosa Parks, who's also a political prisoner. So you got an opportunity to give them a gift on such a person or people. And now when you give them that gift, now you can start to engage. And now you see where they're at. You revisit that conversation at another time. But I think it's very important to prepare yourself to attend to a program and prepare yourself mentally to engage with your family so that the time is used wisely. It's not wasted. It's dealing with something that's relevant to their very lives, because nobody receives anything without the sacrifices of somebody else. And children might not understand that, right? But we have the opportunity to present that idea to them. And now we give them examples of how it works. How did I say something and it materialized? How do you see it in your material world? And you want to ask these children questions and see where they're at with it. And then, like I said, you revisit the conversation at another time. So now you stimulate their mind. Now you could put yourself in a position to actually get them to write a letter and actually bring the conversation to school, to their teacher, whatever area or topic that they're dealing with. If it's dealing with social justice, you talk about those who stood on the front line for people's right to self-determination. If it's talk about history, you talk about the history of those who made sacrifices, the martyrs, the political prisoners, and you talk about them, and you talk about how it relates to today's time and what we need to do with this information, with this knowledge, and how it'll impact our lives. Because to not deal with that is to actually waste good time that you can't replace, time that has to be utilized well. I know that, a child might not understand what a political prisoner is. And then now you look at whatever age they are. They might be 4 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, right? You know what level they're at understanding. But now you can give them different scenarios and tell them, okay, in this scenario, this person wanted X, Y, and Z, and this person or these people said that wasn't possible because it was going to undermine their arrangement of things. And then you ask them, what would you do in that situation, right? You see what their response is. And if their response is not about fighting back or standing on principle, then you remind them, what are the results of not standing on principle? How do you move forward if you don't stand on principle? Who inherits that fight or that responsibility for you not doing what you were supposed to do? And that's why the Black Panther Party example of standing on principle, of standing up for us, of fighting for our right to be self-determined is so crucial in our development of our material world, because it allows us to understand that to be serious about change, to love yourself and love your people, you have to stand on principle. You have to be willing to do something that's not common, something that might be frowned upon by some. But if you don't make the sacrifices or the sacrifice, who will? Right? We say we love our people. We say we love our community. We say we love a better life, or we want a better life. But yet, if we don't take no organized action, then what are we going to do about it? Because we got to teach our children that politics isn't everything, right? From the time that their president arrived, from the time that whatever forms of transportation you were able to use to get to your destination, from the time that that vehicle arrived and then dropped you off, and then to the price that you paid or were forced to pay to actually get that service was political. And once they start understanding that, then they understand the world that they live in a whole lot better. So this is a very important time. It's an opportunity that we have to actually teach our children about principles, values, so we should not waste it. We should make sure that our distractions are reduced tremendously, because this is the end of 2025. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we'll be entering a new year, right? So we have to set ourselves on course to minimizing, if not reducing, those distractions. And now I say this not only to you, but also to myself, because I know I struggle with my cell phone, being distracted. They have that algorithm, so I'm being distracted from different things that I shouldn't be using it as much as I do. But that's a goal that I need to set for myself. So I like to have these conversations because it's a reminder of what I need to do in my life as well. It's a reminder that, we all got work to do. And that's what makes the political prisoner so beautiful and so powerful in our ability to make an assessment of our reality. Because when we examine our political prisoners, we examine who they are. We examine the Mumia Abu Jamal and all the sacrifices he made. And that's why this march was so important and so significant and so inspiring, right? Because Imam Jamil Al Amin, he made his transition in prison. And now we're dealing with Mumia Abu Jamal. He has mental health issues. He had medical issues, excuse me. And of course, that has its impact on his mental health, right? To be in a place knowing that you're innocent, knowing that you've been there for over 4 decades, and you still are given the opportunity that you should be given. Mumia should have been home with us. We should have been able to take care of him and do what is necessary to make sure that he gets the best of the remainder of his life. So when we talk about Mumia, we're talking about how we see ourselves, how we see our right to self-determination. We think about Kamal Siddiqui, being from South Jamaica, Queens, me at one point living in South Jamaica, Queens, and, going in from time to time, still going to the barbershop, still having great relationships in that community. I still consider myself a part of that community. I still have access to certain areas in the community, and I have these strong relationships that those who understand what I stand for allow me to speak on behalf of myself and the organization that I'm a part of in terms of addressing the issue of political prisoners. And so these opportunities are going to come not only to me, but you as well during this time of the year. I know a friend of mine, Sugar Ray, that you hear me talk about, invited me to a program tomorrow. So I'm going to see if I'm able to attend that program. But I know that the organization, I think it was Faith, Fathers Alive in the Hood, my brother Kenny Carter doing some great work. He allowed me to speak about Kamal Siddiqui, to speak about Curb Fest, to speak about a number of people who are in prison unjustly, who have sacrificed for people's right to self-determination. So I say that to say that, just like me, when you build up these relationships, use them for opportunity to speak about political prisoners. Let those in those spaces be provided with a poster or some material that's going to get that conversation going. And we always got to follow up with these conversations to see where the people at, and use our ability to be creative, to step up and accept the responsibility to speak about our political prisoners, so that the community knows that, whatever they're going through, right, they're going through because more fighting needs to be done, right? We can't get relaxed. We can't get content. We have to stand up and fight back. We have to take a definitive position when it comes to our self-determination. We can't be calm. We can't be nonchalant with it. You know, I've experienced something recently where I was a little bit nonchalant as I dealt with this matter, somebody who having authority in a particular situation. And so, you know, with that, I have to do some evaluation of myself and make some decisions on, you know, how much more I need to do or where I need to get better at. And that's why this conversation is much needed and so important, because it gives us the opportunity to engage with one another, to do some serious self-examination of one another, and learn about those who sacrifice for us. Like you heard me talk about Mayor Abu Jamal, you heard me talk about Kamal Siddiqui, and you heard me talk about Fred Muhammad Burton out of Philly. You heard me talk about Ronald Reed and Joseph Bowen. You know, those three I wrote to. Matter of fact, all five of these political prisoners I wrote to. And I want to challenge myself to continue to write to more political prisoners. I have some others that I need to write to. I think I wrote to all that I was targeting, and I'm waiting for them to write me back. And when they do write me back, I'm definitely going to share the letter with you, so you know that, you know, I haven't just talked the talk, but I walked the talk, and I've done what I want you to do, because I realize that the more we continue to have this dialogue about our political prisoners, the more we're going to do. The more, when I have these episodes or have these moments where I'm talking to those who made the time to check me out, now the conversation is going to become more advanced. It's going to develop. We're going to start talking about this relationship that we just established, that is going further and further, and it's going to go as far as we would like it to go. For those of us like myself that are dealing with Kwanzaa, dealing with the Ngurubo Sabo, the 7 principles, you know, each principle we can use to deal with our political prisoners, right? So you have the first principle that it's about unity, emoja, right? So when we deal with that concept of unity, we're acknowledging political prisoners, we're acknowledging prisoners of war, and we're doing that unitedly, right? Because if you are at a certain level of political consciousness, you understand that the state has responded in a certain way for those who had the courage to stand up and fight back. They have you in prison. They have certain people say certain things about you so they can make a case against you. So we have to be united in acknowledging that there's political prisoners, right? And that acknowledging that there are prisoners of war. And then next, we have to have solidarity over sympathy, right? Sympathy is just feeling sorry for our political prisoners. Sympathy is just, you know, just having a look, having some type of physical expression around hearing about our political prisoners. But that doesn't change the reality of our political prison. We need solidarity. That means that we have to sacrifice time. We got to sacrifice the distractions that we're going through, and we got to be where we say we're going to be and engage with one another, exchange resources, do what is necessary to raise awareness, not only to ourselves, but those in our community about our political prisoners. So that first principle, we need unity on that aspect of political prisoners. The next one, kujichagulia, self-determination, our right to exist, right? That's what self-determination is. It's our right to exist, and our right to exist in our own terms and our own observation of what it is that is necessary for us to live at the level that we know we should be living at, to control our own destinies. So self-determination is very important. Our political prisoners understood that concretely. That's why they are political prisoners, because they understand that we need to stand together. They understand that we need to have unity around our right to self-determination. And we must make that commitment to doing what is necessary to free our political prisoners. So that self-determination, that kujichagulia, when it comes up in Kwanzaa time, for those like you, like me, who are celebrating that, who are acknowledging Kwanzaa, you know, when we reflect on self-determination, let's talk about our political prisoners. Make sure that we have that inserted into whatever event or program that we're participating in. And then when they're pouring libation, right? You might go to an event where they're pouring libation. Make sure we say the name of our recent ancestor, Imam Jamil Al Amin. Make sure that we don't forget his sacrifice, his commitment, and let's talk about that. So as we prepare ourselves to engage in that particular program, we feel more driven to do more to not let another political prisoner die in prison. Our collective work and responsibility, UJIMA, right? So when this principle comes up, what is our collective work and responsibility as it relates to the freedom of our political prisoners? What are we participating in marches like the march that just occurred for Mumia? Are we doing any programs? Are we utilizing any facilities that we have access to do work on political prisoners? Are we encouraging others to write to a political prisoner, possibly having workshops? These are ideas that we need to have. Do we, in fact, accept it as a responsibility as a person of African descent, as a working class person, that there are people that sacrifice for us, that there are people who are in prison, there are some martyrs who have given up their lives because of their acknowledgement of the responsibility to stand up and fight back, to do what is necessary to change our reality. So the collective work and responsibility goes hands in hand. It's the collective work to free our political prisoners, and it's the responsibility to do the work. So that principle, when it's discussed, we need to always make sure that we insert the work on freeing our political prisoners. Cooperative economics, UJAMA. This is an interesting principle, and it's a principle when we support businesses that are beneficial to our collective interests, businesses that are beneficial to the advancement of people of African descent, advancement to the empowerment of the working class people. We got to ask ourselves, what business are these? And let's share those businesses with others. Like I looked at a video on this one business called Actively Black. And I wonder if you have any contact with those brothers or that brother, please let them know about this platform, because I love to have them on it, because they're focused on making sure that those who made sacrifices, their family and their causes are continuing. They support the family of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, as well as the family of Fred Hampton. And when I looked at this interview, I was very inspired. I want to talk to these brothers about our political prisoners and the fact that, their merchandise, if it could go to some fundraising, that would help the work tremendously, to know that our people are aware or made aware that there is a company like Active Black that exists, that its sole purpose is to make sure that those who made sacrifices have the funds that is necessary to live their lives. And for the people who are doing work around political prisoners to be funded, right? We could use them to let them know about this work. So if you have any contact on that company, please let me know. And I use that as an example for us to selectively spend our money around those who claim to be for us. Make sure that during this time that we support those companies that are doing the job. Like there's a company in Brooklyn, right? Crown Heights, Brooklyn, that supported the Curb Fest. UJAMA, I believe it is. And that's a company that needs to be supported. That's a Black company with Black consciousness that's willing to give back to the community, willing to support the interests of a community. So that's very important that we seek and find those companies. Principle, this is 6, right? Near purpose, right? When we talk about purpose, we talk about the example, the model of our political prisoners, right? They showed us, they are conscious politically about what's going on in their community, in their nation, and what needs to be done to make sure that a nation moves forward. And they're willing to sacrifice. In fact, they did sacrifice. That's why they're in prison. And so when we talk about purpose and we talk about their purpose, now we need to take that concept, that idea, and reflect on ourselves. and ask ourselves, what is my purpose? Why am I existing? Right? You're a parent. You might be like, my purpose is to raise my children. You might be a person who is part of a particular faith. So your purpose is to praise the Creator in your way, in your understanding of the way the Creator needs to be praised. And you decide that you're going to stand on this idea, this concept. Now, that purpose, that idea needs to deal with commitment and sacrifice. And who better can exemplify these two ideas than the political prisoner? So when this idea or this principle of the Ngugo Sabo purpose, Nia, comes up, we need to talk about our political prisoner, their example. And what does that example mean to us? How do we show appreciation for that? Writing to a political prisoner is one way, definitely, and I think that that is the best way because it allows the political prisoner to engage with you, go back and forth, and now you're giving the political prisoner the opportunity to express themselves to you, and you giving it opportunity to be creative, to decide that, okay, I'm going to do something that's about raising consciousness of political prisoners, which leads me to the next Ngubo Sabo, creativity, Kumba. Right? When this principle comes up in Kwanzaa, now you're talking about creativity. You're talking about what are you going to do to raise the consciousness of political prisoners. At least that's what should be inserted into that idea. Because if you don't insert political prisoners in your discussion, then are you having a discussion that's beneficial to the whole idea, the whole ideology of a people's right to self-determination, a people's fight for liberation, right? You can't talk about that without talking about commitment and sacrifice. You can't talk about that without talking about those who are currently being punished because of their politics. And so how do we relay this idea creatively in our community? We should identify spots where, you might be able to write a political prisoner's name. Community center, they usually have postings for upcoming events and programs. You could post up some information about a political prisoner. I know I just want to give a shout out to the community center that I attend on Thursdays from 6 to 8 for our grievance support group at Jacob Reese Community Center in Queensbridge, Long Island, because I posted up the information about Mumia and it's been up there. At least I seen it last week and the week before. So that's at least 2 weeks or more that it was posted up there. So anybody who wants some information about what's going on in the community has access to it, can get some information on the march. Although the march is over, the information about Mumia is still there. And now it would aid in raising the consciousness of the community in terms of Mumia Abu Jamal, who he is and why are people standing up for him. So I say that to share with you about an idea that you could take to whatever program you at, to any parts of your community, raise awareness about political prisoners. It doesn't have to be Mumia. It could be Fred Mohammed Burton. It doesn't have to be him. It could be Ronald Reed. There are a number of political prisoners. And do your own research. Find out about one if I haven't given you one to deal with. So the last principle or the last of the Ngubo Saba is faith, Imani, right? During the time of you dealing with the principles in Kwanzaa, you come with faith, right? There's different ways where you describe faith, but I think that faith is essential, it's important, because even though you can't put a material perspective on it, it's still a principle. It's still what gives you internal strength, what allows you to go through what you're going through because you are focused on the possible favorable outcome. And a political prisoner is just that. They amplify faith. They have faith in the people. So we need to show appreciation for their faith in us by actually talking about them when this principle comes up. So all those seven in Ngubo Saba, the seven principles are dealing with ideas that can be directed to political prisoners. So I just wanted to give you examples about how we need to approach this part of the year. Of course, next week, we'll be getting closer to Kwanzaa. So now I can dig a little bit deeper into that. But, everything is subject to change. But this particular episode is about What are you going to do? And not just you, but also me. So with that being said, I end this episode by saying I appreciate your time. I know the value of it. So never think that I take your time lightly. I take it very seriously. Please share with as many people as possible. And please keep our political prisoners close at home, close to your heart. Don't let political prisoners die in prison. Don't let more political prisoners die in prison. Y'all know the call, free them all. Peace and love, family.